Good deal. Just wanted
There we
to make
go.
sure. Thank you so much, and yeah, thank y'all for having us today. We're excited to be here. As you can see, we're talking today about building the dream team, when to hire, how to make that the most out of that ops partner, that first person. I'm Rob Foglia, and yeah, you just heard Jessica Cline. We've been working together for about 4.5 years. We're gonna get into all that in 2 seconds. But we're passionate about teaching this class because, as we were saying, as Connor was admitting, some people that we found that there's somewhat of a gap in education. Our company is phenomenal. KW is phenomenal with education. We do a great job helping agents get off the ground and get started in production. Career visioning is great stuff, and it just seems like there's a huge gap if you look at the Red Book between level 1 and level 5. And so what we're hoping today to go through is to share some things about our journey to become a Red Book level 2 team, where it's full-time agent, a full-time admin, and Jessica, and to go from there. As you can see on here, I'm the agent of the team. I'm the owner of the team. Jessica knows I do not like this phrase. However, Jessica works for me, and that's just the way she's a salaried admin on the team. I started in real estate about 8 years ago. 13 times bold, 5 times I've served on the ALC. I'm currently our KWYP Southeast Regional Ambassador, and have always been one of the top agents here, top solo agents in our market. Jessica, do you want to share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hey, everybody. We're very happy to be here. I'm Jessica Cline. I run the operations side of Foglia Properties. I started in Virginia on a medium-sized team, and then moved down to Nashville and immediately started working with Rob. So I'm 2 times bold. I'm not licensed, so that might surprise some people. There's a ton of value in that. We'll get very much into treating everybody equally on the team and getting the same experiences on both sides of the business. I've been the KWYP Nashville DOO for since 2008. So basically since I've been in Nashville, and I've led lots and lots of admin masterminds, both with agents and without. But really what we're here to talk about today is what Rob and I do together, and how you can replicate that, or how you can build on that for your own business.
Yeah, and just about every year we do around 30 units, just the 2 of us. I know that some people do more, some people do less. There's no judgment on anybody's business that's out there, and so please no judgment on our business as well. One thing I love about our business is we are profitable. We're very much bare bones, pick up the phone, prospect. And so that 50% profit is after Jessica's salary, after the KW cap, after all the above, after all expenses. We still do that. And so, we can definitely talk a little bit about that as well, and about knowing your numbers. And we're going to dive into some of that as well. We don't outsource talent or services aside from bookkeeping and maybe a random showing here or there. We do have a bookkeeper who puts together our P&L every single month. If you're at the stage of, hey, I'm thinking I need to hire somebody today, you're doing 20, 30, 40 units as a solo agent, feel free to reach out, and we will be happy to get you connected with our bookkeeper. She does a phenomenal job. She charges, I think, $200 a month, but it's well worth it to know your numbers. We both work pretty traditional schedules, kind of like, I hate to use the term banker's hours, but that's basically what it is. It's very rare that I'm working an evening. If I work on a weekend, it's a Saturday morning and that's it. Can't tell you the last time I worked on a Sunday. Can't tell you the last time I worked on a Saturday night. And we've accomplished that by focus and delegation. That's kind of helped us start to achieve that life by design aspect. Does that make sense? Awesome. And speaking of life by design, that's where we're going to start off. So, because today's class is really in 3 parts. The first part's going to be about mindset and life by design. Second part, we're going to talk about leadership. And then that third part is more of the practical advice. So if you're thinking, hey, I came to this class because I want to know, how do I pay my admin? How do I, what does that look like? And we found her, how does that look like now? We're going to get into that. So don't leave us yet. We're going to definitely talk about that. But I think it really needs to start with mindset. And it starts with asking yourself this question that you see on the screen. In a perfect world, what does your life by design look like? There's a key phrase in there, and you can see it in caps, life by design. The main reason we share that, and the main reason we put that out there, is oftentimes I talk to agents, and whether they're YP, I won't even give a YP example here in a second, but they might be ALC colleagues, people from my office. I'll talk with agents, and they'll throw out arbitrary numbers as a goal. Like, in fact, I'm thinking of an ALC colleague that we were in our ALC retreat at the beginning of 2019, I think. It was either 2019 or 2020. That doesn't matter, I guess. But he had just come off his first year full time. He was doing a phenomenal job. He had done, I think, 7 million, something like that, after his first full year in real estate. And we're going around the room, and the TL asks him about his goals, and he's just like, oh, I'm gonna do 30 million this year. Says all proudly. He has no leverage, no nothing. It's awesome to have that goal. And yet I would question him if I were his coach. I'd question him, what does your life by design look like, and how does that number fit into it? And so I'm going to encourage everybody on this call, everybody checking out the recording, to think about what your life by design looks like, and then what does it take to fund that perfect life. Once you can kind of crack that code, plug it into the red book, you've got your business plan, and there you go. Does that make sense? Go ahead, Jessica.
Yeah. So one other thing there, I mean, I love what you said about gaining clarity on that life by design. And then, when you hire someone, it's also important to understand what their life by design is. And so that you can find a way to mesh those together. And then you can both work toward the same goals. And as you grow, you can kind of leverage out different things and both just be working toward that same life by design for each of you. So like Rob said, he doesn't work weekends, Saturday mornings sometimes. And no evenings. And, the same is true for me. And I've been in situations in Virginia where, I was working Saturdays and I was trying to be on a kayak, and I'm getting all these texts and crazy things are happening. And that just doesn't happen anymore because we have that clarity and we're on the same page.
And it helps that we're on the same page about what we both want in life as well. Because ultimately, if Jessica was craving that crazy on call 24/7 type of environment, or if that's what I was craving as well, and the other one wasn't, simpatico with that, whoever wanted that 24/7 life would probably think the other one's lazy, and the other would probably think the other one's crazy. That's just is what it is. And so you've got to be on the same page with that as well. Ultimately, I hear too many agents who kind of have that as, I think it was Jim Collins who said in Good to Great, the undisciplined pursuit of more. That they don't have the clear picture, excuse me, of what that perfect life by design might look like. So I'm going to challenge y'all, like, if there's one thing you take away from today, aside from some of the practical things, get clear on what that life by design looks like so you can start working toward it.
Absolutely.
There are lots of great ways to achieve great results. This is just our perspective. There will be some people who might share the exact opposite, and that's awesome. Perfect for them. Lean into who you resonate with. That's the best way we could say it. And let's get started here. Again, staying with the mindset topic, I'm sure y'all have probably heard pain versus pleasure in bold at some point. There's going to be some pain versus pleasure when it comes to hiring. As you can see on here, don't hire out of pain. Take your time, do it right, or you're going to end up having to do it over and over again. What we mean by that is it's way too easy to be like, man, I'm stressed right now. I'm having that week from hell. I'm having that month from hell right now. I've got to find somebody. You've got that family member, that friend that raises their hand like, hey, real estate sounds cool. I'd love to join you. And you just plug them in. You don't take them through career visioning. You rush the process. And then 6 months later, you're like, man, that friend of mine, they kind of suck, and I don't mean, and I'm not judging anybody that, while it didn't happen to me, I've seen it happen many, many times. All I'm getting at is take them through the career visioning process. We highly recommend it. In fact, I think we kind of had a subtitle for this class where we coined that term. This is hopefully the stuff that career visioning doesn't teach you. What that means is still take career visioning, but this is the stuff that's gonna tag along to it.
Yeah, I think, sometimes when you're in that pain position, you're thinking, I'm just going to put someone in the seat. Someone's better than no one, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I just need a little bit of help. Let's just get it. And what happens in that situation, instead of staying where you are and just getting a little bit of relief, in many cases, if you hire the wrong person, you end up going backwards. So that's why it's so important to take career visioning, to take your time and to understand who you need to hire before you take that leap.
Absolutely. And to the second bullet point on here, are you hiring to solve a seasonal problem or a long-term problem? In fact, I'll, if you don't mind, Connor, I might share a story that you shared at the very beginning, like before this call. You were saying that you were having a busy week, that you were slammed, you were running all over the place this week. And I know we've all been there. We've all had those crazy weeks, whatever you want to call them, of a crazy week. For our purposes of chat today, I'm going to call it a storm. We all have those types of storms that are going to pop up just like the weather, right? And now if that storm is coming up once a week, every single week, 3 out of 4 weeks a month, every single week, you're like, man, I got to get the umbrella out. It's going to storm on me. I got to, that's what's happening. Yeah, maybe at that point, you're solving a long-term problem with the hire. If that storm comes once every quarter, maybe 4 to 5 times a year, that's probably a seasonal problem. You've got to figure out ways to use systems and tools, because like it says on here, a system might be the best solution. And then finally, before we keep moving here, know your strengths and weaknesses. You've got to hire for your weaknesses to balance your business. I'll pick on myself for a minute. Jessica knows I am very impulsive. I'm very impatient. There's a lot of things like that. If I hired somebody just like me, our business would look like a tornado went through it. I'm lucky that Jessica helps fill in some of those weaknesses that I have, and her strengths complement those weaknesses. It's almost like you got to be looking for, if y'all know that, I'm going to butcher it. What's it called? The yin yang or yin yang? You know what I'm talking about? The white and black thing that's like this.
Yeah.
I see a couple
Yeah,
of nods.
yin and yang.
Was that Jessica?
Yin and yang. Yep.
Yin and yang. Thank you. You almost got to think of it that way. You got to find that yin to your yang, so to speak, and identify who you do and don't want to hire. A couple of perfect reasons to hire somebody, again, still with the mindset aspect here. This is to really gain something. You desire to keep your hands off the 80% and focus on that 20%. If you don't remember what a real estate agent's 20% is, we learned this in bold. We still learn it in bold. It was in classic bold. It's in new bold. The key 5: lead generation, lead follow-up, going on appointments, negotiating contracts, and role play. Outside of that, everything else is in your 80%. So as much as you might love to put together your marketing materials and your emails and write contracts, that's technically 80%. So if you desire to get out of that and stay in that 20, that's a perfect reason to hire someone. You might want to gain leverage and increase time on business, increase close business, increase people to help, or maybe you even just want to gain back more time, because that's okay too. You might love where your business is at. You might be crushing it, like we just talked about, life by design. You might have a $300,000 GCI coming in and have no expenses, and you're profiting 200+ K every single year, and you just want to hire somebody to help. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing that says you have to hire somebody that's all of a sudden going to 10x your business and Grant Cardone yourself. Like that, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. That's what we just want to get super clear about that. Let's see. If you desire to improve both sides of your business, and what we mean by that is, if you've read the Red Book, if you studied it, there's a clear path in the business. You've got the sales side and you've got your admin side, right? Typically, a sales agent is great at the sales side and kind of lacks at the admin side, and that's okay. That's normal. That's why you're hiring an admin. That's why the Red Book, and if you talk to Gene Rivers and all the people who teach career visioning, they always say, hire that admin first before you get that second agent on board, because they're going to help strengthen the ops side of your business. So if you desire to improve both sides, that's a perfect reason as well. And just remember, it's not a selfish move. It's to improve and grow your business and improve your life.
Yeah, I love all of that. And just like you said, the goal for all of this, and I think we have some examples of the opposite on the next page, the goal is always to gain through this hire, rather than avoiding certain tasks that you're not excited about.
Absolutely. And in fact, we always get the question, I get the question all the time, what does your admin do? I've got a buddy who, I don't know if he made it on the call today or not, but from a neighboring chapter here in the Southeast, who just hired his first admin. And that was one of his questions. Hey, what does your admin do? Like, we get that question all the time. Short answer, it should be your 80%. You should desire to get your hands off of that completely, and they should be helping you with it. Just throwing that out there. A couple of, we call them imperfect reasons to hire somebody. Basically what these are is you're avoiding something, and that's okay if your business can support hiring someone. So we just want to make sure that we're clear about that, because it's not okay to think, hey, I'm bigger than the job, someone else should do it. But if there's something that you don't like I hate paperwork, I hate tracking numbers, like that's not my stuff. This doesn't fit my brain. If that's okay, I don't feel like I'm bigger than the job. I just know someone else is going to do it better than me. So hope that makes sense, like the difference there.
Yeah. Oh, that's a perfect example. Like you said, you really don't like that stuff. The second you said it, I started smiling, because I love that stuff. Like if I could do that all day, perfect. And that's the yin and yang that you're talking about.
Exactly. Like I had somebody say that before. So I took career visioning for the first time about 5 years ago. And if you notice, Jessica has been with me about 4.5 years now. So I took it for the first time, I guess, middle of 2017. And somebody had said that. Somebody's like, as much as you might not fathom it, somebody out there loves to do the things you don't like to do. And that's who you should be looking for. And that's why you can't. Yeah, exactly. Jessica's pointing to herself. And that's 100% right. And that's why you need to be following the process, because if you're following the process, it's going to take you to that person. Just a couple other things on here. You shouldn't have a task be someone else's problem. Just, because remember, extreme ownership, it's still your business, but someone else can own it too. We talked about paperwork, so we didn't need to tell about that. And then the last one that's on here, I need to leverage out these 12 homes a year. I'm not trying to say anything negative about somebody doing 12 homes a year. Like, you might be doing $12 million properties a year, doing 12 million, have a great business. The average agent in the country doing what, 12 what, $300,000 properties, they might not be able to afford somebody at that point. So just throwing that out there, you know, you might have to get your business to a place to support that role. That's what we're getting at. Let's see. What to know before you hire, before we get into the leadership aspect of this here. Know your numbers, know the big business numbers, know how profitable your business is. I'm not going to ask the group, but if you don't have a P&L, y'all, that should be an action item from this call. Get a profit and loss statement together. That might be getting a bookkeeper to do it for you. Because like I said, I'm going to get cross-eyed looking at a spreadsheet, especially putting one together. So if that's you as well, get somebody to do it. You've got to know how profitable your business is. Because on top of that, when that changes, when you've now brought on a full-time salaried expense, somebody making, you know, I mean, I don't know what an NEA is making in your market, but when somebody's all of a sudden you're responsible for that, that's going to change the bottom line of your business. Can you still live your life by design? That's why, again, you got to know how much you need to survive and support that life. What's the true balance of your business? Listings to buyers. Only reason I throw that out there is I know we're all inundated with buyers right now. It's just the reality of it. I mean, my coach told me the other day, he thinks there's 20 to 30 buyers out there for every listing. That's probably right in our market. I don't know if y'all are thinking the same, but you know, it probably is that way across the entire country. At the same time, what does your close business look like? Are you focused on getting more listings? Because Jessica's an unlicensed assistant. She can do so much for me on my listings. She can't do as much for me with my buyers until we're under contract. You want to tell more about that, Jessica?
Yeah, just about the difference between a listing and a buyer. I mean, like you said, I can't do a whole lot until we're under contract for a buyer. It's all from my desk. It's, you know, I'm not going out and showing properties. I can't legally open the door for them. I can schedule showings, things like that. But for a listing, we're very, very systematic with it. So, you know, there are listings where Rob has never even stepped in the house before. Yep. He does a virtual consult. And then I write up the paperwork, I send it to them, they sign it, I schedule everything, I go to the house for the photo shoot, everything is done that day, I place the sign in the box, I coordinate the showings, I review all of the offers, and then I put them in a spreadsheet and he talks to them about the offers. And then exactly. I take it to closing. So it's a totally different situation. I mean, there's basically no time cost for you on a listing.
Exactly. It's in the lead generation to get the listing because there's so much that you can do to help with that. Yeah. You notice I'm still doing the negotiation aspect. I'm not leveraging that off to Jessica because that's in my key 5. I'm still talking to the seller saying, hey, we got 17 offers this past weekend. This is what they look like. And at the same time, I'm not going through 17 offers and saying, all right, what's the buyer's name? How much are they putting down? What's their price? Are they pre-approved? What are the contingencies? Like, I'm not combing through that stuff, which is saving me so much time and sanity as well. And then just ask yourself, is your business as it currently sits able to support a new role? Don't rely on business that hasn't shown up yet, because remember, someone is trusting you with their life and their career. Like literally, you have somebody who's might be needing to make their house payment and pay their bills based on the job that you're offering them. So don't take that lightly. It truly is a great responsibility. What to do before you hire, right before we get into leadership, choose a trigger. Know, like once you hit a certain amount of units, once it's regular for your business, you know that, hey, all right, I'm doing 2 deals a month, 3 deals a month. And it's not like I'm doing 6 1 month and then not doing any for 3 months and then 6 the next month, but it's pretty regular throughout the year. That can be a trigger for you. Excuse me, form an LLC or another business entity. You know, different in different states. I did it myself in Tennessee. It's super easy. It costs like $300 a year, but there's extra protection there. Have a separate business checking and savings account. Hopefully you should do that anyway, regardless if you're going to hire somebody tomorrow, if you have somebody, or if it's just you, have it separate. It's just so much easier to track. Great book, as you can see on the screen, Profit First, that details this. Review your P&L consistently. Have a payroll system in place once you hire that person, guys. So like we talked about, you can't just Venmo somebody. Jessica, how would you feel if every 2 weeks I was just like, all right, what's your Venmo again? All right, here you go. Well, how would you think I'm being a professional at that point?
No, and honestly, I'd be nervous. Like, I mean, it relies too much on you remembering. It doesn't feel official. It doesn't feel like I have something I can rely on.
Exactly. It's not. It's not at that point. And payroll systems, guys, are super straightforward and easy. I use Gusto. I think it's $40 a month to pay one person. After that, if you have multiple employees, it's something like an extra $5 a month. So it's, you know, if you plan on hiring multiple admin, it's easy to scale. They do everything for me. They file my taxes. They file the forms with the taxes, I should say, with the IRS. You know, they give me forms to give to my accountant when I file my taxes, things along those lines.
Yeah,
Talk to your insurance
W-2s,
guy
time
about,
off. Yeah.
was that?
I was saying they do W-2s, they do time off, all of it's very, very hands off. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you bought a house a couple of years ago, Jessica.
Yep.
You couldn't have done that if you were a 1099 employee trying to figure all this stuff out. You
Or
had
if
a
I was
history.
getting paid through Venmo.
Yeah, exactly. You had a W-2 to share with your lender and say, hey, this is the type of money I make. And then the last thing that I'll dive into on here before we get into leadership, have cash reserves. I had a coach tell me right before I hired Jessica to have 4 to 6 months of business expenses plus her salary in the bank. And I was thinking at the time, man, that sounds crazy. That sounds like a lot of money to have just tied up. I'm grateful that we did it that way, because ultimately your business is going to change when you make that hire. Your time is going to change. You're going to be spending more time helping that hire get accustomed to things. You might have a dip in your business for, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months, somewhere in there, until it all starts to come back around. So having those reserves are going to help with that. It's going to help make sure that if you've got the right person, you can just kind of get past that turbulence and get back to smooth sailing.
Mm-hmm. And this is kind of an aside. I don't even know if we talked about bringing this up, but do you remember, Rob, that during my interview process, I had actually asked for clarity into the books of the company to make sure that it was a stable company that I was getting involved with. So a lot of people, especially, you know, people who are talented in this role, they're going to want to know that they're coming into a situation of stability.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very helpful to have that in place.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. So let's shift gears and talk about leadership. And I want to throw this out there to everybody. What makes a good leader? And you can laugh at Michael Scott if you think he's a good leader or not. That's a heated debate between me and my wife, and I'll leave it at that. However, what makes a good leader to y'all?
Yeah, come off mute. Tell us all about it.
I'll throw one out there.
Please do.
You know, I think it's always I always look at that metaphor where it's like a leader's not the guy, you know, cracking the whip, making everybody else do it. He's there on the front lines with you doing it. So it's always a show by example, and never be afraid to do the work with your people, but also inspiring them to come along and do that work. So I think that's probably one of those manager leader differences.
Absolutely. Connor, I love that, man. I mean, in fact, I'm not gonna share who or anything like that. However, I know I've talked to admin who their agent was very much like a crack the whip, not do anything. And that person did not feel comfortable in their role. They felt undervalued. They felt like they weren't following a leader. Let's see. I saw Raymond Brophy. I saw your hand come up.
Yeah, I actually read an article not too long ago about somebody who was in the Navy SEALs, and they asked what makes a great leader to them. And they put a graph up of how much somebody has the knowledge and expertise of what you're doing and how much they trust the person. And almost 95% of the time, the guy who had the most expertise but they didn't trust was not the person they wanted as the leader. They wanted somebody that they can trust, that has a general idea of what you're doing. Even if they don't have the most expertise, they want to know that they can trust the person, that they're going to lead them in the right direction. And if they don't know the answer, that they're going to help find the answer. But they didn't have to be the most knowledgeable, just the most trustworthy.
I love that. No, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, I think trust is a huge part of it. And I love that last part of what you said too. And that's, if you don't have that answer, that's okay. Say that. And we're going to talk about communication shortly and transparency, but that's a perfect example of transparency. And yet to also be like, we're going to find out that answer though. Let's see who was next. Alexander, you were next.
Hey, Rob, thanks. No, for me, I mean, in any business, even if I think about like years back in restaurants, like at the end of the day, like there was nothing better than the manager that would start expediting food or like start washing dishes. Like it's the person, I think, at the end of the day that understands that though they're leading the ship, right? Like steering the ship, and they're the ones that have the best interest of the entire crew at heart, that they're also a part of the ship. They're not removed from the ship by their station. So like Ray said, and I like what Ray said a lot, but I think inherent in that at the end of the day is like the person's still a part of, you know what I mean? Like you trust that they have the best interest of the crew as a whole at heart and not their own self-interest, which for me, I think is an integral part of wanting to follow a leader.
Oh, dude, I love that. I would say ditto to everything you said right there. And what I heard was that, I mean, that person's in the trenches, that person's doing the work, and that person cares. And I love that. One more, I saw Brett's hand come up. So Brett, we'll go with you, and then we'll keep moving on here.
Sounds good. So I want to reiterate everything everybody already said. And I think another great quality of a leader is depicted in the book Leaders Eat Last. So it's making sure that you're taking care of your people and providing opportunities for them, not only in the role that they're in, but opportunities to grow personally, professionally, and help advance them as you are advancing.
I love that you said that. You literally took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say the last thing, I mean, it's almost word for word. I have it written down here. Help others grow rather than using others to grow yourself. Right? Like
Absolutely.
Genius. You're a genius.
Yo, I love it. And I think we've got some awesome leadership perspectives on the call. And so thank y'all for sharing. You know, if y'all want to drop a comment in the chat, if you think Michael Scott's a great leader, I will just say, I do think Michael Scott cares about his people and he's in the trenches. So a lot of the things that y'all just said, I'm just going to throw that out there, and I should bring that back to my wife later to maybe settle that debate. But just remember, y'all, that you're becoming more of a leader now. Invest in your leadership, lean into the leaders who resonate with you. A couple that I had written down, Simon Sinek is one of them, Brett, that you just said. Jocko Willink, if you know, if he's an ex-Navy SEAL, he's written some phenomenal books about leadership. John Wooden, the old UCLA basketball coach from, I don't know, 40, 50 years ago, however long it was. He's got some amazing philosophies on leadership. Buy some books on these people, check them out. And again, lean into the people that you truly connect with, because that'll go a long way. But let's keep going with leadership. So just pretend for a second, you're hired. Now I'm done, right? Is that how it was, Jessica?
No, no, and it shouldn't be. I mean, if it was like that, and I actually think you have a great story on this. If it was like that, I would be a little bit lost and confused, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Because leadership doesn't stop. And yeah, I'll share that story now if you'd like, because I think we've got some time. We're only at 1:30 Central, 2:30 Eastern. And yeah, I mean, I won't share the company or the people or anything like that, but I was at a family reunion a few years ago, and I went to an amazing breakout on listings, and somebody was talking about their company's leadership. Like, they have a leadership academy in their company. As you can imagine, it's probably a big expansion team. That's why I'm not saying anything bad about anybody. I'm not sharing names. However, so I'm like, I love leadership. I'm going to plug into this. I'm going to plug into their Facebook group. I'm going to see what it's all about. And I lost complete respect for the group with one post. And it was that this person had just made a hire, right? They're excited. They just made their hire. And their person was supposed to start on the same day as the first day of some conference that this major organization was hosting, right? And so what do you think that the group said in terms of, hey, should you be there on the first day? Should you skip the conference? Should you let that person sink or swim? What do you think the resounding answer was to that question? And this is where you can just come off mute and say something if you want. Well, Jessica knows this story. So Jessica, what do you think? What was the resounding answer?
Yeah, I think that the words you shared were let her sink or swim. Like, just throw her in there. Let's see what happens.
And I was at that time, Jessica had probably been with me for about a year, somewhere in there. And I was like sick to my stomach. I'm sitting there thinking, this person just hired somebody, and 50 quote unquote leaders just told this person to let her sink or swim. I'm just like, man, that is not leadership. You know, I mean, yeah. Like, how would you feel if it was your first day and I just said, hey, I'm not going to be there. Good luck.
I mean, I don't think there's an end to I would feel disrespected, forgotten. I'd feel like I joined the wrong team. I'd feel like, well, I obviously don't know how to do this job because I'm lost. Like, I've got nothing to do this whole first day. Why is he even paying me? Like, none of these are good things. Like, that's it. That's the opposite of how you keep good people.
Exactly. It's the opposite of how you keep good people. Yes, Ray.
I would say that goes back to the transparency. I'd explained to the new hire that we were double booked. We have a major conference on the first day, on your start day, and explain that to them and say, these are the projects I want you to work on. These are our systems that we use. I want you to feel free, explore them as much as you can. Just understand today is going to be a light work day, and, you know, explore as much as you can. And I want you to formulate some questions on what you think of each system, what questions you have, so we can go in and we can answer
It could
for
be.
you the following day.
Could be. You could also push that start date back, which is probably what I would have thought about doing anyway. The thing that I would be cautious about of taking that approach with it, and Jessica can speak for this better than I can, is that the typical admin personality, they want security. They want to know, they want to process, they want to know what's happening. And so if you tell an admin to just, hey, try to figure some things out, a lot of times that admin's going to feel lost, right, Jessica?
Yeah, I think insecure is probably the the word for that, definitely. But there are some great tips for this, and I think we're actually going to share one in a couple of slides. And I can share it now if you'd like, and it'll just seem familiar in a minute. Having that hire interview you on the first day is a great way to start the relationship. And you tell them where your business is now, where you want it to go in the next 3 to 5 years. And then it's our job to kind of bridge that gap and make the plan to get there.
Absolutely. Well said. And let's keep rolling. I'll summarize this slide as one word for me, and that's ownership. 2 books on the bottom there: Extreme Ownership, Dichotomy of Leadership. Remember, the buck stops with you as the team owner. No, I love the conversation. We could keep talking about this for hours, I'm sure, in terms of different leadership philosophies. But let's keep diving down the path in terms of kind of correcting some common misconceptions. Remember, y'all, that your ops partner is not a receptionist. They're a valuable partner, and that's the huge word. You see it twice so far on this slide. They're a valuable partner. They're being hired to bring ideas, solutions, and consistency to the business. Like if you're like me, you probably hate tracking numbers and you don't like doing that stuff. That's me anyway. Maybe I'm the only guy on the call, the only agent on the call that does not like doing some of the analytical work. And yet the reality is, having somebody who loves that stuff is going to help bring the ideas and the solutions. And you've got to have that clear communication to make sure that they have the authority and responsibility to improve the business.
Yeah. And even though you mentioned that you don't love doing that stuff, I have a strong feeling that you see the value in the work being done, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
So,
like I can look at my contacts for the week here and know how many people I've talked to, and I see the value in that and tracking that compared to the results. 100%, there's value there. It's just not my favorite. And if you ask me, I would just have a bunch of tick marks on a page like this. Whereas you've got Google Forms, and we could go back to however long we've been tracking it and see, all right, the week of September 10th last year, how many contacts did I make? Like, we can find that information like that. In fact, Jessica, I'll share a quick story as well. Family reunion. I was out to lunch one day with some of our YP friends, and we were talking about golden letters, right? And so we were talking about golden letters, and somebody had asked, what were your golden letter numbers? They had known that I had sent some out. What were your numbers? And sure enough, you had just sent them to our coach because he was asking about it, right? And so I was able to pull them up right then. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have any clue how many we'd sent, how many actually responded. I would just know I called that person. I connected with them. They're a long-term nurture. They hung up, whatever it might be. And so just throwing that out there.
Yeah, and I think one of the keys for this whole slide is that it's really important to empower your operations partner to do these things, because if I didn't feel like I was owning this side of the business, the operation side of the business, then I wouldn't have done as much as I did for golden letters or for the listings or for whatever else. So, and that's a theme you'll see throughout this whole thing, is empowering the person that you're bringing on to really take ownership of this part of the business.
Absolutely. A couple other just common misconceptions. Remember, no one is a 100% rock star. Everybody's going to have strengths and weaknesses, and someone's going to have, like, it could even be on the admin side. Some people are going to be better at certain admin tasks than other. On the sales side, you don't want me as a buyer's agent on your team. You want me as a lead listing specialist on your team, because I'm gonna take some listings. I'm gonna pound the phones and do that, but I don't have the patience to be a buyer's agent. That's what I mean. Like, there's gonna be strengths and weaknesses that you got to lean into. Delegate those weaknesses over time. And just remember that success should belong to the individual. Failure should belong to the team. Kind of what I mean. Like, I've said it before. I don't know if I've said it on this call, but I know Jessica's heard me say it before, so I'll just share it. That Jessica makes me look like I know what I'm doing. She really does. In fact, I told that to my parents, because we're listening to my parents' house soon. And I'm like, long story on it, but I told my mom that, and it's like, she really does. And that's broadcasting the success. And I shouldn't be broadcasting a failure. If there is something Jessica's not doing properly, I shouldn't be then saying that to the group. Well, she does great at this, but not this. That's not leadership. Is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't appreciate that.
As we get toward the end of the leadership aspect here, I'm going to share this is probably my favorite quote I got out of family reunion. I don't know if anybody on the call got a chance to go to the Jocko Willink event that Bob Lucido had put on down in Orlando. Jocko had said this. It slapped me in the face because I'm like, man, that is so profound. And that's if you desire to be in charge of everything, you must strive to be in charge of nothing. Summarize this, it's all about delegation. And so if you have desire that you want your name on that business, you want it to be Brett Campbell Real Estate, you want it to be Foglia Properties, you want it to be whatever it might be, well, that's great. You can have that desire to be in charge of everything. You also must be striving to be in charge of nothing and to let it go. So we're going to be talking about a lot about letting go from here to the end, especially during the practical aspect of the the second section that's about to come on the next slide. In letting go, hiring is an exercise of letting go of that 80%. You've got to trust somebody with your business. I know it's your baby, and yet you've got to trust that person. Remember that it's earned over time though too. It shouldn't be day one, here are the keys, take the Ferrari out for a spin. No, they've got to learn to drive. It's going to take time. You can see on here, some hold too tight, some let go too easily. You got to find that sweet spot, a proper 30, 60, 90. And again, that's not what today's about. Take the leverage series, take career visioning, because that's going to dive deep into all this stuff. A proper 30, 60, 90 is going to allow you to start to let go of some things while holding on to other things and to find that sweet spot. What I miss on that part, Jessica?
Oh, I mean, I think that was all just right. I mean, the only note I have on the first bullet point there, hiring someone as an exercise and letting go of your 80%. The only thing that I'd add to the end of that is, even if you're good at the things in your 80%, because sometimes, you know, you're good at writing paperwork. Sometimes you're good at doing social media or whatever it is. And you can keep maybe a piece or two of those things as you move forward in your business. But it's so important. The whole reason you're hiring someone is to let go of that 80%. So it might be painful, might feel like letting go of your baby, but it'll make everything else worth it. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting caught up in the chat. I didn't realize we had some Michael Scott opinions here in the chat. And so
actually, speaking of the chat, why don't we answer this top question, or maybe both of these? Let's start with the top one though. So everyone in the group, if you had to pick one word, what could stop you from letting go of things in your 80%? Just drop it in the chat real quick. Let's see what we've got here. Ooh, I love that. Pride.
Mm-hmm.
Fear.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
When I think the two are connected, pride, ego, I think that probably at the root of that is fear. It's that fear of not looking good, not being right, you know, making a mistake. Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it all is rooted in some sort of fear. I mean, I don't even know if we still talk about it in the new bolds, but as I mentioned, 13 times bold. So I took the old one a million times. It seemed like probably 10 of those 13 times. And the old bold used to get deep into some of that psychological stuff. And we all have the desire to look good and be right. And that's all rooted in fear of not looking good and being right. And so, yeah, absolutely. And let's see, of losing control of my own business and my well-being in someone else's hands. Yeah, I mean, that's a form of fear as well, I'd say, right?
Yeah. And you know what's really interesting about that one in particular is it's, if I were to say what my fears are getting involved with a new agent, it would be practically the same thing. So even though you're both feeling that fear and that stress over like, oh, my life is like in someone else's hands, it's a group adventure, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well in the upcoming slides.
Absolutely, because so ultimately, I mean, and Jessica, you're a perfect example of it. Like, you moved here from the DC, Virginia area. You were probably going to move here anyway. However, like, this was the job that brought you down here. Yep. And so the reality was that, like, you had to vet your opportunities, make sure that some guy who just sells real estate can actually support you and pay you a paycheck every 2 weeks and all that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was scary, but that's also part of the reason and my personality type that I did so much research and I asked so many things of Rob getting involved because it's a big deal.
Well, let's move on to our final section here of today's call, and that's part 3, and that's more of the practical items. And the whole point of that is to hopefully allow you to start removing some of the fear, to be able to start letting go of some of the things, to be able to remove some of that pride, some of that ego, and to be able to like to know, hey, if I do X, Y, and Z, or even if you just do some of these things and continue to work on leadership, that's what's going to help. And communication, as you can see here, to me, that's the true key to success. It all starts there. And I love bullet point number 1, and we could probably mic drop after that. And that's transparency. Share everything. Like if we're having trouble in the business, Jessica needs to know about that. If things are phenomenal, she needs to know about that as well. There needs to be transparency about everything that's going on, because the more time you spend on the same page, the faster the team can pivot and improve.
Yeah, and it needs to go both directions, right? Like if something's going terribly in a transaction, or, you know, if our database is a wreck, that's not stuff that I can keep to myself either. It's, you know, like you said, the more we can stay on the same page, everything is just better.
Absolutely. You got to be ready to have fierce conversations. You know, the most progress is made outside of your comfort zones. Be brave, have those important conversations, even when they're difficult, and have them right away. I won't share who, I won't share anything like that. But one of my YP buddies, he shared a story with me where he had an assistant. I don't think he's on this call, but I won't share his name still, but he had an assistant, and they were not seeing eye to eye on something. And it was, instead of having just an honest conversation and say, how can we get on the same page here? How can we see eye to eye on this? Instead, it became difficult until they blew up at each other one morning, the end of the morning, right? And he's like, I'm frustrated. I'm going to lunch. He leaves, he comes back, her desk is cleared out and she's gone, because he didn't have a fierce conversation when he needed to.
Yeah, and the thing that I love about that story is that they both knew for the longest time that something was up, right? Just because you're not having the conversation doesn't mean that there isn't a back and forth. And because there was nothing said, it's like a lost opportunity, because if you come forward with that fierce conversation and you address it head on, then you have that chance to build trust, which is huge. And then that in turn creates a great culture.
Well, in fact, trust was one of the words that a lot of people threw out in terms of what makes a great leader, that they've developed that trust. And you can see it, communication brings it. Y'all remember to invest in your people. Treat your team members how you'd want to be treated. Include them in trainings, events, it helps develop them for future opportunities, keeps the team on the same page. Are you paying for your assistant's KWYP membership? I paid for Jessica's. You know, Jessica went to Bold a couple of times. That wasn't because she needs to sell more houses, because she doesn't sell houses. However, I wanted her to experience the same things that I've experienced throughout Bold. Jessica, you've taken career visioning 3 or 4 times, because over time, I want you to be that person that hires as we get to that point, you know, bringing that next person on. We've started and stopped and done that. So I know you've been doing that for the last couple of years, but regardless, what I'm saying is like you should be developing your admin and helping them be a stronger part of the organization. That goes a long way. And then make goals together. Because when the goal belongs to everyone, people are more invested and motivated. I know it's not the same, but just pretend for all the buyer's agents that are out on the call, or even just an individual agent on a team, you know, to where you maybe take listings and buyers. If your rainmaker just comes to you and says, hey, this year you're selling 60 homes, and you're like, I could give a bleep about selling 60 homes. I sold 40 last year and I feel great about 40. Maybe I'll sell 42. Like, are you attached to the 60? Probably not, right? And so it's the same for making goals throughout, you know, with your GPS, with your 411. And then one last thing, and I'll stop rambling and open it up to Jessica, is the MVVBP. Especially if you're making your first hire, y'all write that out together. Maybe not on day 1, make sure that hire sticks, make sure y'all connect well, you know, maybe on day 60 or day 90, that's an exercise that it's like, hey, let's get our beliefs together. Let's fine tune this mission statement. What's the vision of our company? Ask yourself those questions.
Mm-hmm. And really the only thing I have to add on this page, and you touched on it for a second, is just use those systems that are provided. The MVVBP, the GPS, the 411, they seem a little daunting when you get into it, but if you're looking at them consistently and if you're using them the way they should be used, it's the easiest thing in the world, and it makes everything else easier. So don't be intimidated by them. Just really use the systems. They're there for a reason.
Absolutely. More practical advice. Put your new hire to work on day 1. You don't need to have everything worked out before they arrive. In fact, I can't tell you how many individual agents I've heard say, I need to put my ops manual in place before I bring my operations person on. No, you don't. Like, you should have seen my business before Jessica came on. Yes, I had a database, but it wasn't a database. You know what I mean? I'm sure I have past clients that are gone forever because I didn't have them in a CRM possibly. Maybe Jessica's found them over the last, 4 years. I don't know. However, put that hire to work on day one. It doesn't have to be perfect because that right person is going to help strengthen that operations side of the business.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't want Rob making the systems.
What are you trying to say?
I would much rather show up on the first day with nothing. And like I said, interview him and say, where are we going? And what systems are going to get us there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very empowering as an administrator coming in and having that on your shoulders. And it's also a great way to kind of solve that fear problem because you're making a plan together. So you know what's going on, and it's piece by piece building that trust.
Absolutely. Y'all have a consistent weekly meeting scheduled for your team and stick to it. Don't stop having that meeting, because once you start moving it around, aside from the random thing, the once every 30 to 40 occurrences, once you start moving it around, that's when you're showing each other that you don't respect each other's time. And so you got to make sure that you keep having that meeting, have it at the same time every single week. Our format, you can see on the screen, we start by expressing gratitude. We go through the beliefs in our MVVBP, and we spotlight something that we observed over the last week. Our beliefs are simple: positivity, humility, honesty, and a pursuit of mastery. And so those are our beliefs. And we'll spotlight something that maybe we observed on a KWYP call, or maybe we observed in our business, or just our lives. I mean, maybe something we read, or it could be whatever it might be. We talk about transactions. We talk about our pipeline. Most weeks we have a team topic, something that we're diving deeper into, like Facebook lead generation, or client events, or whatever it might be. We talk about what we're reading, have a 411 conversation, and that's it. I know it's a mouthful, but it goes quickly.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just going to say, it seems like it would be a 4-hour meeting, and it's really not. Including the 411 discussion, it's about an hour and a half, and sometimes it'll be shorter than that even. So you can definitely get a lot done if you're focused during that time. Absolutely.
And share each other's calendars. Put stuff on your calendars. If you're going to take a night off because you're hanging out with a buddy or something like that, put that on there. I mean, just respect each other's time. It goes a long way. More practical advice: set clear, specific goals that you can point to and say, yes, this happened, no, this didn't. In fact, I think that's our whole next slide is goal examples. So we're gonna have those up for you in 2 seconds. But that can be part of your job description. Those are going to be part of that 30, 60, 90. They're going to be on your GPS. Have the how I communicate conversation. Like, for instance, I know when Jessica first started, I told her, I was like, if it's urgent, I'm going to either call you or text you. Take your time if I email it to you. It's probably not something that needs to be done right away. That's how I treat all matters, honestly. I think email is a pain in the what. However, I'll leave it at that. However, it's the less urgent items. And whereas calling and texting, that's something that we need to do right away. That's how I operate. Somebody else might operate differently, and that's absolutely fine. Jessica, I know you love that Chris Suarez quote, so I'll turn it over to you for this quote here.
Yeah, I heard Chris say this. I think it was at a YP retreat maybe a couple of years ago. But I just thought it was a great example of setting good expectations at the beginning. And, very often you're going to have a different personality type, a different communication style from your hire. And if you can pinpoint areas ahead of time that might cause friction. So like if you're a high D and you're really blunt and you might offend some people, even when you're not trying to, this is a great example, right? Like, I'm very direct. If I offend you, please tell me immediately. Like, I give you permission to tell me, because I never intend to offend. So just things like that. So just be aware of yourself and how you can be perceived by someone else, so that there's that expectation set ahead of time.
Absolutely. And that's all about transparency and communication. It really is. I mentioned there's going to be some practical goal examples. So y'all feel free to screenshot this, write them down, but we'll go through. I mean, these are things that Jessica has as annual operations goals, as well as monthly goals that it's not every single month. It's not every single day. It's not every single week that these are getting worked on. However, they're overall goals that she takes ownership of. And is there anything you want to spotlight here, Jessica?
Maybe not any specific item in particular, but just if you're looking at especially those annual goals, keep in mind, I'm not in a sales position. Like, I don't make calls every day. I don't do any of that. But each of these goals has a very clear, yes, it was done, or no, it was not done. There's no gray area. I can't just come to the table and say, yeah, I think I did that. I either did or I did not. And so that first section is annual and the second section is monthly. So that's not what my daily or what my weekly task list looks like. But these are projects that I work on throughout the month in order to keep us on track to achieve our annual goals.
Yeah, and these are the things that once you start breaking them down even further are what shows up on your 411 and the things that start to show up throughout your day-to-day. And we're going to get into your day-to-day in 2 slides. The next slide is actually my schedule. My schedule is really, really straightforward. If this looks familiar, this is straight from Bold, the old school Bold that might be in the new one as well. But this is what my day-to-day looks like. Every morning at 7:30, I'm script practicing with out-of-area agents. I do listing-based script practicing. I'm on the phones at 8 o'clock. I'm usually calling people from about 8 to noon, right in there. I won't lie to y'all and say I'm perfect and make calls 4 hours a day every single day. However, that's my time block. I don't take any appointments inside of 8 to noon. That's when I'm working on my 20%. I have gap time around lunchtime. So aside from actually stopping and making sure that I take a lunch, you see there are things that I'll get into here, like emails, negotiating. Sometimes I'll do that at the end of that 20% time. However, I will take a lunch. If it's nice out, like it's starting to get nice out around here, I might go for a quick run in my neighborhood at lunchtime because I'm not a morning workout guy. I'm an afternoon workout guy. It's what works for me. However, then in the afternoons, that's when I'm going on my appointments. That's when I'm booking my showings. And if you have these strict schedules in these strict time blocks in your schedule, you can share this with your clients and have easy conversations to where your client's not calling you at 9 a.m. on a Sunday saying, hey, I want to see this home right now. No, you've already had this conversation about when you're available. So and you can see Saturday when necessary in the mornings. And my clients stick to this. I'll tell them right off the bat, even buyers, I'll say I work pretty traditional hours. If they work a 9 to 5, I'll say, hey, I get it. Some people also work a 9 to 5. And if that's the case, maybe we can break away on your lunch break. And if they can't do that, maybe I will go meet with them at 5 o'clock if I need to. But I'm sure as hell not meeting with them at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night. I'm here with my daughter at that point. And that's, my daughter means more to me than selling a home. And I'm just throwing that out there. So I would encourage all y'all to get strict with your schedule because that's how you're going to be able to create that life by design, whatever that looks like. It might look like this, might look differently, and there's no good or bad. It's just got to be what works for you.
Yep. And now, so looking at my schedule, you can see that it's set up very differently than Rob. So Rob has basically the same thing every day, and it's broken down into hours. For me, it's each day is its own purpose, right? So I mentioned how systematic we are with our listings. That drives a lot of this. So you'll notice Mondays are offer deadline, listing updates, new listing photo shoots. Thursday, listings are active. And then everything else is kind of wrapped around that. And then every day, I'm pulling Bizbo leads, transaction management, and then those projects that we talked about from the GPS and the 411. So, this is how we've laid it out based on, like I said, our listings and what our business needs. So your admin side might look totally different, but there's a good chance it won't be the same every day like a sales position would be, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It makes sense to me. It definitely does. Daily challenges and just things to experience, to quote unquote fail forward. Remember that it takes time to build a relationship. So learn to live with each other successfully. Identify a failure as soon as possible. It's better if you can identify it and avoid potential failures, obviously too. Diagnose the cause of the failure. Create a system that will avoid it in the future. Be clear and direct about the failure and at its root. Honest, open, respectful. I think that all goes pretty straightforward, but I hope that makes sense. Again, it's all about communication. It's all about having those clear expectations too, because if you have clear expectations, you can say, hey, this is how we failed. Like I'll be transparent with y'all. We had a goal last year for our database to hit a certain number, right? I don't think we hit that. Did we, Jessica? You know better than I would. I'm asking you the question. But when we didn't, if we didn't, then what we simply had a conversation. How can we get better at this, right?
And you mean the number of people in the database or the return?
The closed business, yeah, per person.
Yeah, I think we were a couple off. And like you said, we went through every item in the GPS and said, did this happen or did it not happen and why? And
what do we need to adjust? What do we need to fix? And that's part of it. That's part of kind of course correcting, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. When you make this hire, act like you're starting the business all over again, because you really are with a partner. And once that person, especially after 60, 90 days, once that person is earning the right to start having a say in your business, let them have that say. That's how we remove ego and how we remove the fear. Failure is just feedback and growth. Cherish it and make a plan to move forward. And remember, everyone should take ownership of their failures. Here's we failed. Here's what we can do about it in the future.
Love it.
I love this one right here. So I just want to stop on the first one, especially that understand that growth takes time. And if you're currently in your 20%, remember that rule of 5, if you're currently in your 20%, 90% of the time, your business likely is not going to double immediately like that popular opinion suggests. Like, how many times have we gone to a conference and heard somebody say, oh, hire an admin and you're going to go from doing 30 deals to 60 deals like that, right? In 12 months, that's going to happen. And that does happen to some people. But if you're already on the phones, like this, I won't go back slides, but if you look at my schedule, if you looked at my schedule 5 years ago, I was doing very similar. I was on the phones in the morning. I was going on appointments in the afternoon. I was prospecting for sale by owners and expireds. I had no database. I had no social media presence. I had no email marketing. I had none of that stuff because that was my 80%. And I spent 90% of my time in my 20. And so because of that, Jessica didn't exactly bring on, doubling our business. And that's okay because Jessica brought stability, which is what I was looking for, stability and structure.
Time. Yeah.
And time. Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. The flip side of that is if you're currently spending 80% of your time on 80% activities, you're never lead generating, never picking up the phone, then absolutely an ops hire can absolutely double your business as long as you use that time gain, to increase your 20% activities. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, it takes being honest with ourselves, takes making sure that we, that we're being honest, that are we actually in our 20%? If you're not, that's okay. Be honest with yourself about it and know that if you're doing 30, 40 deals and you're not in your 20%, you're probably rocking and rolling as it sits. Maybe you bring on that admin, and if you focus in your 20, you might be able to ramp up to whatever it is your life by design might be. And that's what you got to remember. That life by design hiring is going to give you that chance to get closer to your goals. We've got a private question, so I'm just reading it real quick, see if I can answer it for this person. Oh, he asked if he could get a copy of the slides. I know I sent out a copy of the recording, and so
I'll do both.
All right, awesome.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's see. So just on that the same trend here of understanding growth takes time, just remember that the goal is sustainable, consistent growth. I once had a coach just kind of slap me in the face and be like, look, if you're growing at a 20 to 30% growth rate year over year, whether that be GCI, profit, whatever it is that you're measuring that's important to you, like that's really good if you're doing that year over year consistently. Like the outliers, the people that you see on stage that go from they did 20 deals one year into 120 the next year. Like, guys, that's the 0.1%. Remember that 99.9% of people don't succeed this way, and most success happens over time.
And just one real quick thing before we leave that slide. If you do double your business in 1 year, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's a good chance you won't keep that pace going forward. Like doubling every single year is very unusual. Now, if you do 20 to 30% growth, there's a good chance you can keep that pace. And so it's that healthy, sustainable growth that we aim for.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you said it that way. And just keep measuring your numbers, know your profit, know what you're actually taking home, because that's the whole purpose of bringing somebody on, is to increase that profit or to increase your time, whatever it is that's important to you right there. In summary, and then we're going to open it up for questions, but really the top 3 topics: gain your clarity on your life by design, guys. Like, you really got to do that. Don't just go after more for more's sake. Too many people do that. I did that for years. I would set an arbitrary goal because it sounded cool. It sounded great. I doubled whatever my business. And it took time for me to learn, does that actually fit in with what I want in life? So you got to gain clarity on that. The leadership aspect, remember, let go, empower your ops partner, delegate. That should be that, as well as communication, are priority 1 for leadership. And then the practical advice, communication's on there. Just be consistent, communicate, and let that ops person form that structure for you.
Love it.
Y'all, what questions do y'all have?
Rob,
I know we weren't that good.
I just wanted to give a quick, I know you got a pretty hard stop here, so we'll want to wrap up. I know you want to take a couple. I really love the idea you posted there where you kind of said you don't have to have your entire ops manual together to hire your ops person. That has been such I guess, limiting belief for me as I'm looking to partner with maybe a showing agent or something because I'm on a team. So that showing leverage is going to be helpful. And I'm thinking I have to have everything totally done and set before I can bring somebody else into my world. And knowing that I can kind of formulate that with that other person a little bit is super helpful. So I love that.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
I'm glad that was a takeaway. And like, I don't know if you heard Jessica say, please don't have that ops manual in place, because let that ops person do that.
And that's like, at least from my perspective, like that's what I see my value being coming into the situation. So if you've already done it coming in, I'm like, well, what am I here for?
Because I think we all have a desire to create in some form or fashion, whatever that creativity thing is. Like, as you probably guessed, I'm not at a Guitar Center. I just love music. I love the guitar. And so, that's part of my creation. Part of the way that Jessica loves art as well, and that's a big part of her creation. However, aside from that, from a business standpoint, I think she loves to create systems and processes, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, that's everything. Like, I love making something that just works flawlessly. Like, that gives me everything. Yeah, that's what it's all about. And I love being able to make someone else's vision a reality. Yeah.
Absolutely. Y'all, what other questions y'all have or ahas you want to share? I know I have a relatively hard stop, but I can be late. It's no big deal. I told them I had something until 2, so it's they shouldn't have scheduled it at 2. They should have given me a little leeway. I'll leave it there.
This is so helpful. So just thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome.
You're
It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
Our pleasure. We're happy to do it. Again, I know it's something that we feel is kind of underserved inside of just the real estate community. What the individual agent and what leverage looks like for them. So no, we're grateful to have you here.
Yeah, Rob, I just want to jump in and say thanks for the opportunity to listen to your guys' story and how you guys set it up. I think it's great hearing from, not everybody can do it the same way. And it's great hearing like the nitty gritty that you guys went through, because you're right, not everybody goes double their business every year or add someone to the team and just quadruples and blows up. So I love the story that you guys shared, and I really appreciate it.
You bet. No, it's our pleasure. We're happy to share it. Y'all follow us on Instagram. You see our Instagram handles on here. I'm very if you follow my Rob Foglia, you will probably never see anything about real estate. I rarely post real estate on there. I subscribe to the theory that people want to know me, and being a realtor is a very small part of me. And being a dad, a musician, a husband, I mean, all that is a bigger part of me than selling homes. And so so feel free to follow me on there, and I would love it to follow y'all back as well. And yeah, I appreciate y'all showing up to this. If there's anything we can do to be of service, let us know. And I see a hand up. Yeah, what's up, Ray?
Yeah, I know you might have missed in the chat, and I don't want to get too personal, but I was really curious where you stand on this Michael Scott debate.
I think Michael Scott's a great leader, and one of the biggest reasons for that are the things that we've talked about. I do think eventually he communicates, he trusts, he does empower his people. Yes, he is a little flaky, and there are some things that he doesn't do great. And yet at the same time, I think the pros more than outweigh the cons, especially once you get past season 2, because he's a little bit of a heel in seasons 1 and 2. But once you get past that and and Jim leaves and all that, and he, I think Boat Trip. My wife and I have watched The Office way too many times. However, I think it's Boat Trip when he kind of gives Jim some advice about going after his dreams and going after Pam. It's like that's when he becomes the leader that we want him to be.
Yeah, I would say he's a frustrating and good leader. That's where I stand on that debate.
It sounds like it's a pretty resounding good leader. So I'm taking this back to my wife as some market research. So
yeah.
Well, good deal, y'all. Well, unless there's any other questions, we can let y'all go. But we're grateful that y'all showed up today. If there's anything we can do, if y'all have any questions, if you want to talk one-on-one, reach out. We're here to help and be a resource. And yet, do you see the bit.ly down there? Subscribe to our agent partner newsletter. We send out actual business tips. It's not just, hey, Nashville's great for country music and the hiking trails and all that. Like, no offense, no one cares about that.
It's
like, we actually put
things
things out there that'll help you grow your business. So, so sign up for it if you're interested.
And I'll send out slides in just a minute. So drop your email if you want it. And yeah, thank you all so much. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all. I got to run. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
See y'all.
All right, y'all. We're gonna wrap up. That was a pretty awesome class. So I appreciate Jess. I appreciate you and Rob being able to hang on with everybody. So yeah, if you guys want to drop your emails in the chat there, I'm definitely going to throw mine in there. I know you guys
Yeah.
already have it. And then what I can do, Jess, if it makes it any easier for you, I can also email you the saved text chat
Sure.
down here, just so you can kind of have a graph of everything. So
Yeah,
I'll give-
that'll be perfect. And yeah, I'm doing all kinds of weird things over here, so I'll just use that.
All right, last 60 seconds, guys. If you want to throw your email in there, go ahead and drop it in there, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. So I sincerely appreciate all of you guys hopping on for today's class, and hope to see us all at the next one.
Thanks, guys.
And we all
Thank
appreciate
you.
our fearless leader, Connor Tuck. I want that stated.
Yes.
I'm here
Yeah,
for
thank you
you,
for the
Alex,
invite.
just for you.
Oh,
Well, for
you're so
everybody else
sweet,
too, but
Alex.
sometimes I like to make it feel like.
All right. Bye,
All right, talk to
everybody.
you guys.
Yeah, see
Thanks,
ya.
guys.
All right, appreciate you all hopping on. I'm gonna end the call now. See y'all.